I'm going to take away from this retreat pure happiness, new friends, new amazing friends, and the confidence to live my life again.
My favorite part, because it's the most important part, is the healing. I don't remember a time when I was more embraced and cradled, and there was an angel in every single woman in this group for me.
Every person deserves to have this experience, to have this awakening, and to feel fulfilled in their life. I could not have asked for a better 6 days of my life.
You become a better person, you meet awesome people, you go home with a whole new tribe of soul sisters. If you're thinking about doing this, do it. There's no reason not to.
What you just heard were the experiences of some of the amazing women who attended my last Radical Self-Love Retreat, and I have great news! I'm now accepting applications for my upcoming retreat. We are going back to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico to do it all over again this October 2021. So grab a friend and reserve your space before it fills up. It is time to love yourself like never before in paradise. You can join me at kelseyAida.com/retreat. Hope to see you there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Vibin It. If you're new, welcome to the fam. If you're old, we love you. Welcome back every week. Thanks for being here. We are here to help you live your best life, manifest your dreams. Today, we're going to get real spiritual. It's going to be super fun. We have an awesome guest on. His name is David Strickel. He is a channel of source, a best-selling author, and creator of the Taya practice. So we're going to ask him a little bit about his Taya practice, how that helps people, what that's all about. And we're going to have him channel source live on air. Well, I guess this is pre-recorded, not live, but you get the idea. You're about to listen to it and it's going to be awesome.
For the VIPs though, right? Or are we doing that on the regular episode?
No, I think we should do it on the regular episode so everyone can enjoy. And if we have
Oh.
super juicy questions, we'll save that for the Patreon.
I already have a super juicy question for
Okay.
Patreon.
Well, save your most juiciest question for the Patreon part.
Got it.
If you guys are like, what's Patreon? It's where we do our extended versions of the podcast. So we usually keep the guests on a couple more minutes. Sometimes we pull oracle cards for you guys. And you guys can join in on that fun at patreon.com/high vibe. So without further ado, I'd love to have David jump in here and just kind of say hi and introduce himself.
Hi, thank you both for having me, and thanks to everybody out there for listening. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yay.
thanks for being here. Also, if you guys watch this on the Patreon, you will see that we're all wearing white, which we thought was very fun. We all three of us hopped on the call like we are angels of source today, just channeling the best messages for you guys. I love it. We love it. So, David, we are really excited to talk to you and have you here. And I wanted to start with you introducing our audience to your mindset practice that you created based on the teachings and channelings that came through you via source, correct?
Yes.
Awesome.
The teachings have been coming forever. I
Mhm.
remember even prior to age 6, having some clarity on things. I realize now I shouldn't have had clarity on it before age 6. So I wasn't drowning it out then, and I continued through childhood, not drowning it out, luckily, and moved into adulthood and trying to figure out what was up with me. And then I came to understand through visiting psychics and things like that what I was, what I was receiving, and over a period of time taught myself to really comprehend, really have a conversation, an inner conversation, know when it was my mind or my ego speaking, and know when it was coming from beyond that, coming from source, and started writing it, and then ultimately taught myself how to speak it for the benefit of other people. And one of the things that I needed to do for me was take all of these teachings and the teachings that I was receiving from other external sources as well. And I had to create a system for myself to utilize universal law more effectively in my life, to run my life with universal law instead of opposition to it, as we're taught to do in our society.
Yeah.
So, through fear and judgment and all of those lovely things that we're all, bound to, it seems, just from everything that we consume all the time. sort of unwinding and unlearning all of that so that I could really get into universal law and really tap into the magic of the universe that's available to all of us. And then I started teaching it to other people. And in fact, I had a very successful corporate career teaching part of it to other people. And then I got frustrated that I really couldn't help them with their entire lives in a corporate setting. So I quit my corporate job a couple of years ago, wrote my book, started my podcast. From there, started a coaching program. And from the coaching program, my my process that I created for myself took on a life of its own, if you will, and became the Taya practice. So Taya sounds ancient, but it's not. It's about it's 3 years old actually now. And it's something that has helped people all over the world transform their lives. As far as manifestations, we have stories of just about anything you can imagine. People healing themselves from terminal illness, people coming back from cancer, people exiting abusive relationships, manifesting marriages after 50, which is not supposed to happen, right? Certainly money, fortunes, successful endings to child custody, and just all kinds of things. It just goes on and on and on and on. But the real manifestation from Taya is a deep understanding of our purpose as beings, physical beings, of the purpose of what we call good and evil or right and wrong, and how through the eyes of source, none of that is judged the way we judge it. And then getting really deep into being able to adapt that source perspective in our own lives regarding ourselves and all of humanity, which is a very different way to think than again, what we're trained to think. It's very transformative.
Right. We love it. We love all those success stories. We're big on manifesting here at High Vibin It. And I mean,
yes.
I got into manifesting because I really value efficiency and I love magic. And so I was like, well, if we can live our life to the best of our ability by being in sync with nature and universal law, like how you said, and, just take advantage of the way things work and energy flows, then why would we spend our lives fighting how it is? And let's just try and learn to work with it to the best of our ability. You don't have to really understand everything about it in order for it to work for you. It's like working a TV, you understand the basics and from there you're good to go. You don't have to know how to deconstruct and build one in order to take advantage and watch your favorite show. So I would encourage people out there to think of manifesting as that instead of feeling overwhelmed or anything like that.
Yeah.
'Cause it can definitely be I don't know if
It's supposed to
simplified
be
is the right
easy.
word, but
It's
it
supposed
can
to be
be,
fun.
yeah, we
Yeah,
like to
the
keep
Taya practice is very easy and very simple.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
you're right. The energetic realm is not nearly as complex as we make it.
Yeah.
And a lot of spiritual teachings even make it very complex. And I think some people are served by that. They need it to be complex. They need it to be that, otherworldly experience. But it really isn't otherworldly. We're in it.
Yeah.
We are in the middle of it. We are of that and we're part of it. And universal law is very simple, very, very simple. I always just say it all boils down to the universe answers yes to everything.
Yep.
So when you start really vibing with removing the judgment out of the things that we're taught we're supposed to be afraid of,
Yeah.
then there's nothing to fear. And then if you're not fearing anything, you're actually not focusing on, hypothetical situations that could happen, or reliving things that were negative that happened in our past. Once we learn these tools, we start to view those things very differently. And then we're not reliving the same unwanted scenarios over and over and over again, which is very common.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
love how you said about overcomplicating. I think we also need to feel like we're working hard for it, because there's this idea that you have to work hard for everything. And if it comes to you for free, then it's not worth it. And, all this weird stuff. But to that point, for myself, the biggest thing for me and I still have to repeat this to myself more often than I'd like to admit, is that there's about 1,000 ways to get it right. And we forget that there are 1,000 ways to get it right and to feel good and to really just make it simpler for yourself. And so just reminding myself of that as somebody who is a perfection enthusiast is very helpful. And, maybe somebody out there listening, like there's really no way to get it wrong as long as you're following what makes you happy. So to that end, how is the Taya approach different than the traditional like law of attraction manifesting, or is it the same and just kind of your flavor on it? Can you talk about that?
I found that there were 4 things I needed to really focus on. It's not about just getting happy and
Yeah.
being happy all the time and
Thank you
just
for saying
thinking about
that.
the things that you want all
Oh
the
yes,
time.
toxic positivity.
Yeah, I really got into this. Well, I can't do that. There are times
Yeah.
that my vibration is just naturally lower, and there's things in my past that are still sort of active. And so I had to get into deep appreciation of everything that I've encountered in my life.
Yes.
And I had some traumatic things happen when I was younger, as many people do. So I had to really get into viewing all that from a different perspective. So it wasn't, my father left when I was 6 and my mother was abusive and all this stuff. It turned into, wait a minute, my parents being disconnected from me as a child allowed me to do this.
Oh,
Mhm.
Because ultimately in my teenage years, my teenage years were so bad. My father was completely disconnected from my life. He went on and had another family. My mother did not want to be a parent. I was not the easy child that my older brother was. And my mother at one point told me to commit suicide. She said, "You just need to kill yourself." I'm like, that's great coming from a mother, right?
Wow.
But ultimately,
what?
that summoned. I know it's a shocking thing to hear, but I've
You
made
say
such
it
peace
so
with it.
cavalier, and it's
It's just
because I
funny
know you've
now,
said it so many times that at this point it's
right? It's
like,
just
yeah,
funny now. It's
it's
just a
an
funny
anecdote.
story. Exactly, it's an anecdote because I've detuned the pain of that.
Yeah,
It was painful for a while, but
of course.
ultimately, her saying something like that and other things that she said to me summoned this inner strength from me. And it could have gone either way. It could have shut me down and I could have believed that and been that person, or I could have fought back. And ultimately, that caused me to fight back and really understand that I wasn't her and I wasn't her opinion of me. And then I had this inner voice that I held on to. And that's what happens. We're born with this wonderful inner voice. That's why children are so free and playful and just manifest with such ease, because they haven't yet learned that they're not supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And so my disconnected parents actually gave me enough space to be able to develop that, or allow that just to be. Actually, I didn't have to develop it; it was already there. Allow that to be and carry me through life. And I look back at my life now. I just turned 53, so looking back at different times in my life, when I stopped trusting and stopped believing, that's when things went quote unquote bad. But the bad served a purpose as well.
Mhm.
Mm.
So the thing that makes Taya different than a lot of mainstream law of attraction teachings, so many people are teaching that just get happy and think about what you want as it already is. And that works. The issue is that you can't hold yourself there indefinitely.
Right.
You're,
And it's mean to make yourself like live to that standard of, oh, I should be happy all the time when you're a human. Like, have some
Yeah.
yeah,
grace.
It's a
Jeez.
breeding ground for judgment.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, the stream
Self-judgment.
talks a lot about what we label polarity, this up and down vibrational flow that we go through. And the teachings of vibrational flow are very powerful, because if you sort of go with vibrational flow and let yourself go down and not judge it as bad
Yeah.
or evil or awful or negative, or, we call it DTS for down the spiral because we're trying to take the judgment out of it. But
Mhm.
even DTS takes on judgment because people will come in, and say, oh, I'm all DTS right now and it's terrible. Well, no, you're DTS right now and it's an experience that you're having, because if you're not DTS sometimes, then you're not going to be up the spiral sometimes.
Yeah.
You're not going to be up in that high vibration. You're not going to appreciate it.
Mhm.
So moving through vibrational flow is such a great way to live life, because if you do go down, and we all do, you're down there in lower vibration and you're not judging it. You're simply at peace with being in low vibration. Finding appreciation for it actually takes you right back up. So whatever obstacle you create when you're down there, recognizing that you're down there, that nothing would be going, against your desires unless you were down, and knowing that the ticket to solving anything that comes into your life is going back up into high vibration, where you have your source connection. We talk about neutrality being the sort of baseline, and when you get above neutral, you're connected to source, where all new thought occurs and all new positive creation occurs up there. And we can spend most of the time up there, but Taya is not about being up there all the time. And it's not about this, oh, I just send everybody love and light. It really is going into deep appreciation of transgressors. So everything that's happened in your life, every bit of trauma, even things that you created, as a young child that you have no idea how you created. That's one thing that people really have trouble when they first discover law of attraction and hear the word manifestation.
Right.
A lot of times they put that wall up of, well, there's no way I manifested being abused as a child,
Right.
having cancer. And the stream is very clear that none of this is about fault.
Right.
That idea of fault is an egocentric thing, that we've got to blame somebody. The idea of being a victim is also an egocentric thing, that we've got to, that wasn't my fault, that was done to me. Well, claiming ownership of a manifestation doesn't mean that you wanted it or deserved it, or you're paying the price for what you did in your last lifetime or any of that stuff. Getting into the stream's teachings on, the fact that there is no real time, there's no linear time in the energetic realm. So every life that we've ever lived, we're actually experiencing simultaneously. So our vibration is our own unique signature, but we're always becoming more sophisticated beings with our life experience. And so part of becoming a more sophisticated being is understanding that we have this vibrational flow, that things do manifest in our lives. Everything is a manifestation, but the unwanted stuff actually serves a purpose of expansion. And when we kind of dig into it from a different angle and find the silver lining in everything, even if you don't find it right away, but if you make your train of thought, I'm going to see how this serves me, or how that thing that happened when I was a child ultimately helped me, and see it from a different perspective of it's something that I experienced and that's it.
Yeah.
Instead of it was terrible, it was awful, it was the worst thing ever, and this person victimized me and I could never forgive them. I work with a lot of people that are caught up in that sort of thing, that want to break free from it. And they understand that finding that path to appreciation of it, meaning deep understanding of it, is the key to releasing that negative energy. Because until you do that, that's the only work that we ever talk about doing, is the
Yeah.
unlearning of all the crap that we've picked up in our lives because of judgment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've definitely found understanding to be a great antidote to judgment. And in my coaching practice, like we'll even do this with, let's say someone has a part of themselves that they don't like, oh, I hate this anxious part of me that's always worried and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, have you ever tried to have a conversation with it and maybe ask why it's there, what it's trying to do for you, when it started, blah, blah, blah. And then people get into that and they understand their anxiety and they have so much compassion and love for it that they don't have to like that they're an anxious person, but naturally they stop fighting it and judging it and they can just reclaim it. And that's when the healing comes, from the compassion and understanding. So I really have seen that approach work and I love it. And for all the visual people out there, as you were speaking, all these visual analogies were coming to me that I wanted to expand on, because I loved how you were saying the up and down and you were using your hand in this motion of life. Like we're going to have periods of going down the vibrational ladder and going up the vibrational ladder. And it's okay. And the less you judge it, the more enjoyable your life is going to be, even in the down or up moments. You'll feel more open. But it was reminding me of a roller coaster. Like imagine a roller coaster that's just straight. It doesn't go up
Well,
or down. It
yeah.
doesn't turn.
Yeah,
There's
if you
no
don't have a low, you're not going to have a
momentum.
high, right?
You
Right,
don't
exactly.
Yeah.
you don't go on a roller coaster to go straight.
Right.
You don't come to this earth to just be neutral all the time. We came here to experience it all. Even the Kardashians, okay, who seem like they have really great lives, go through some shit. Okay. So nobody came
Yeah,
here
apparently
to
they
just
have
be
some
bored.
relationship issues.
Apparently, allegedly.
Apparently.
Allegedly.
You don't even have
That
to follow
is-
them to know that, right?
Nobody
That's
came
funny.
here to be bored. So yeah, we did. I totally believe that. And as you're speaking of your childhood and taking ownership of your experiences and knowing the value that they serve, that was a big, I don't know, big challenge for me. Up until about 19 years old, I was like, my life, because I didn't have the best childhood, I guess you could say. My mother never told me to off myself, but she made us afraid that she would a lot. So there's always, living in fear as a child and not really having stable upbringing to really put your 2 feet on them. So I had to plant my 2 feet in my, on myself. That sounds weird, but, create my own stable foundation. And I never would have been able to do that. I don't think. I don't even know who that person is that had a stable childhood and in a parallel universe, if everything went right. I love who I am today. So I would never trade I don't want to go through it again, but I would never trade any of it. And I think it's just about knowing, as you said, knowing the value that it was offering you. Because everything, I know I chose this life. I know I did. I chose my parents. I chose my brother. I chose my sisters. I chose everything. So just that knowledge in itself was just so empowering. And that's really, I think, the point of it is just empowering yourself to know that you get to you get to decide, now that you know you have more control than you thought, you get to decide what comes next, and you get to kind of take ownership and create what you want out of life.
And
Absolutely. Go
oh,
ahead.
I was gonna say the expanding and contracting idea reminded me of those toys where it's like a ball, like a plastic ball that gets really big when you pull
Oh,
it,
we have
but
one of
then they
those.
get really
Yeah.
small. So you can't actually expand it unless it's contracted first, right? So you
Yeah.
can think of yourself like that in a moment of contraction. Like all of last week, I was contracting. Okay, guys, it was not fun. But as soon as I stopped resisting it and I was just like, okay, this is a part of the process, it's natural. I'm going to expand after this. Like everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I just felt so much relief and it was so much easier to start coming back up. So, really, it's the judgment that gets us
Oh,
stuck. It's not
yes.
like the nature of life itself. Like, that's normal, it's natural, and it's called being a human. So, it's all
Yeah,
okay.
we're taught to fear it and demonize it and to
Yeah.
never feel pain and never feel, we're supposed to numb ourselves from all that stuff. And even a lot of spiritual teachings are sort of about bypassing all that stuff and just being happy for the sake of being happy instead of just really getting into your natural vibrational flow
Yeah.
and without judgment. And it's an amazing way to live. So that's one component of Taya is that radical appreciation. We call it forgiveness, but we're sort of tricking people.
You're right.
Because I always say forgiveness is sort of a rest stop on the way to full radical appreciation. Because
Yeah.
really, the vibration of forgiveness is you did something bad to me, and I'm going to get over it and let you off the hook.
Yeah.
Whereas appreciation is you didn't do anything bad to me. We co-created an experience that was not something I enjoyed at the time, and I'm going to look into how I created that.
Yeah.
What did I do, and ultimately, what did it do for me? Because we create all of these things for our expansion. And when you start viewing everything like that, then life really, really changes. So that's one part of it. The other part is source connection, keeping
Mhm.
yourself um, in a default state that is higher than where we typically default, because we get into what I call get it done mode. We're getting life done and we're not really thinking about stopping and appreciating and loving ourselves and removing the judgment of self, which is huge. That self-judgment and the fear of being judged by others. When you start detuning that stuff in your life gets so good when you just don't care. And some of that comes with age. In my 40s, I got a little bit of that. In my 50s, I've got a whole lot of that, but not everyone. I live in Palm Springs, which is an older community, and there's still a lot of, especially there's a lot of gay men here, and a lot of us. I'm one of them. We're really wrapped up in appearance, and if we're going to be judged, and we've got to get to the gym, and you've got to go tanning, and you've got to do all this stuff, and
Yeah.
COVID disrupted all that for me. I was right in that stream before COVID. And then all of a sudden you can't go tan and you can't go to the gym. And then suddenly I discovered baking and I started putting weight on again. I used to be really, really heavy in my 30s and I lost it and kept it off for a decade. And then suddenly I start gaining weight again. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I need to love myself like this. It doesn't mean I have to stick myself here necessarily,
Right.
or maybe I do, and this is just how it is. But I need to detune a little more judgment of self, that I have to put out this specific image for the world to do what I do. That's not true. I'm channeling source. Source isn't judging me based on how I look. So if they're not judging me, then why am I going to worry about anybody else judging me? And
Mhm.
that little last frontier of detuning was so freeing. And what I found is with an awakening process, it never ends.
Yeah.
This started for me 10 years ago, 11 years ago now in 2010. And it never ends. It just keeps getting clearer and clearer and clearer and better and better. There's never a ceiling, or I haven't found it yet. There's just more clarity, more abundance, and more appreciation of all that is, to the point where the news doesn't even trigger me at all.
Yeah.
I don't have to avoid that. I don't care about really reading the news, but I don't have to avoid it. I went through that period where I don't watch the news and I don't watch TV. Now I can if I want to, and I'm not triggered by what I see there. And to
So
me,
can
that's
I
a bit of a growth for me from where I used to be. Yes.
I have to ask you, when you're watching the news, because I know for me, I need to know kind of what your default thought pattern is when you would have normally gotten triggered to what it is now. Because when I watch something that's upsetting, the thing that I guess comforts me or puts my mind at ease that I don't need to be triggered by it is that this is there's a bigger picture. What seems bad to us on an earthly level, there's such a higher perspective, and it's all working out, and that kind of comforts me a little bit in those moments. But what kind of do you think of, or what kind of goes through your mind when you notice yourself not getting triggered? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, when I notice myself not getting triggered, that means that I am in that higher vibrational state where I do keep myself most of the time. So when I'm up there, nothing's going to trigger me naturally. I can literally look at the news in appreciation of people are having their experience. Even if that experience is a death
Right.
experience, people are having their experience, because if you're seeing through the eyes of source, which is a guided meditation that I did, just happens to be the name of it, but it's a very powerful practice. We call it zooming out. You zoom out
Yeah.
to see through that higher perspective that's available to all of us, of non-judgment, that we're all eternal beings here having a very temporary human experience in a physical vehicle. And if you
Yeah.
start thinking of your body as just a vehicle, most of us don't keep our vehicles forever. We get a new one, we're excited about it, it wears out, or we get bored with it, we move on to something else. Well, that's what our human experience is in our body. It's a vehicle for us to experience physical, but we're so much more than that, and so is every other being on the planet, regardless of what it is.
I'm
So
glad
when you
you're
start,
describing it too, because that's exactly how I feel. And it almost worries me that I'm gonna like numb myself. Like, what if something really bad does happen, but I can't, I'm only seeing it from the highest perspective and I'm not, I don't know, it's weird.
yeah,
Like
but
you
when
almost
you're up
feel
there, you're
guilty for
so
not feeling
clear.
bad enough.
Yeah, you're so clear that you're not judging yourself about not feeling bad for it,
Right.
because that's what, clarity is my favorite manifestation by far.
Yeah.
And clarity, you're in that place of clarity. You're not judging yourself. Now, I have absorbed, this is a good example. Back on January 6th, you're both in the United States. So,
Mhm.
when the Capitol was stormed, I'm sure you heard about that. I was, for some reason, on my phone, clicking through some news thing, and I saw a headline about it, and I dove into it, and it took me down my spiral for a moment. It dropped my vibe, like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that. I can't believe that's happening in my country. And I stopped myself. I've created all these little stop gaps in the Taya practice where we do catch ourselves and stop ourselves. And it's just a question of, is it worth going down my spiral over? And some things may be, but that was not. That stopped me from the plummet. Put my phone down. I went out into another part of the house, did a little meditation, just raised my vibe. And instantly it was that clarity of, what am I upset about? The people that are doing that are in their bubble of reality, doing what they think is right.
Yeah.
The people that are freaking out about it on Facebook right now are in their bubble of reality, pushing against it because they think that's right. At the end of the day, I don't even give power to politics. So why am I even, triggered by that?
Yeah.
And I realized that, first of all, I was already a little down the spiral, or I would have never been triggered in the first place. Good clarity there. And the second thing is, what is the transgressor? That's a big part of the Taya practice. We dig into what's the transgressor. So you clear your transgressors through the practice of appreciation. So a transgressor is any unwanted person, circumstance, or event anytime in your life. So I always go into now, well, what's the transgressor of that? And it was justice. And I thought, wow, I've never done any work to detune justice. Why do I need justice? Justice is about judgment. Justice is about punishment and retribution, and somebody doing something that I'm judging is wrong and needing them
Yeah.
to pay the price for it. And I just thought to myself, I've never had anything where that's happened in my life where I felt like I needed justice for me, but I need justice for other people. And why is that? And I got to dig into that and detune that need for justice. And it's like one more thing that I can take off my plate. That is, I always say that this transgressor stuff is always swimming around down there waiting for us. And until you really detune it, when your vibration drops, it sort of grabs hold of you and can drag you down there, and you can stay down there. Just like when you get above neutral, source sort of grabs you and takes you up, right? So your transgressor energy is just that. And we do work to clear that. And the work is finding appreciation and understanding of it. And when you find that transgressor and detune it, then it's not an issue for you anymore. So after that happened, I know there was a whole big political uprising because of that. I disconnected from all of it.
Yeah.
And about within the next month, I was out to dinner with some friends, and that topic came up of the impeachment. And I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't care. I didn't have a pony in the race. I just was having a nice dinner. And the conversation, it's funny because it started and it stopped almost immediately. It's like that vibration that I held was held by everybody. We didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was an enjoyable evening because there wasn't a political debate at the table, and nobody needed to be right about it, and we weren't needing justice. We didn't even get into it. It was so funny how it just kind of came and just flowed right out. So living life with detuning your transgressors that you've created for yourself over the years helps keep your default vibration higher. So when you dip down, it's just part of your vibrational flow and you're not judging it. And then you go back up with ease and you actually do operate at a higher vibration all the time. And then when you want to really dig into that delicious source connection, it's always right there. It's so easy to get to.
I love that.
Yes.
We always talk about what is it really that's upset. It's very important to place your focus on what is it that's dragging me down, because it's so easy to feel that abstract feeling, the heaviness. We can describe it in a million different ways, but what is it actually? Like Kelsey was saying earlier, what if you just identified it and had a conversation with it? Like I do it in hypnosis. Kelsey does it with her clients. I just feel like it's such an important piece of self-discovery. I always say you're never going to regret knowing more about yourself. You're never going to regret, realizing and figuring out what makes you tick. And you are absolutely right that it never ends. I'm 36 and I'm nowhere near done. I don't know when I'm going to be done, probably when I die. But until then, I am happy to discover and to just play in that exploration process. And I love that you said detune. Detune is such a powerful, phrase to use, because it is just about unlearning, isn't it? And, identify and decide to unlearn it because you don't need it anymore.
Yeah, well, that's the
Why
thing
not?
about a vibration is we detune vibrations. You're not going to
Yeah.
completely eradicate something and it's just gone forever necessarily. You're taking its power away.
Right.
And when you detune, you take the power out of it. And then suddenly that negative thing that happened when you were a child isn't a negative thing anymore. It's just an experience. And those negative things, that's what creates what you probably heard this term before, abundance blocks, right?
Oh, yeah.
We can't align with the things that we want and stay there because we have all this negative crap flowing around in our lower vibrational field. And when the vibrational flow takes us down, it's there and it's active and it doesn't
Yeah.
go away on its own. We do need to see things differently because we have these negative memories and we tell ourselves these negative stories over and over and over again, especially when we're down in lower vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you mistake those meanings that you assign to things for like the actual thing. And then
Yeah.
the meaning makes you more upset than what actually happened. And that's why I love your practice of assigning empowering meanings to the things that happen to you in your life. Like this happened for a good reason, and this helped
Yeah.
me to do this, and this means that now I'm available for these things. And it's those meanings that really are going to decide how you feel about it, not as much as the actual circumstance itself. It's what you're thinking about that thing, right? So I'm loving your Taya practice so far. What I'm getting from it is it's a lot of practice of releasing judgment of your experience, of yourself, and of your life, and finding really powerful and powerful meanings to things, creating powerful meanings and attaching those to things that happen to you, and also a lot of appreciation for all of it. So it's an inclusion based practice, which I like because I have found that it does
Integration.
not work to push against things.
Right.
Indeed. You're right. And it is. It's those things. It's the forgiveness, which is radical appreciation, allowing your natural source connection. And source is not something we have to go find. It's in us. And it's not drowning it out with all the ego stuff that we're taught, all the fear stuff that we're taught. It's just allowing the natural connection to be realized, really. And then knowing where you are vibrationally without judgment, meaning I'm up, I'm down, it's all okay, it all serves a purpose. Because if you don't ever go down, you don't create obstacles. If you don't create obstacles, you're not creating anything to create from.
Mhm.
There's no inspiration, because if you are just completely satisfied with every aspect of your life, you become stagnant. There's always going to be something. That's why we see people that have these quote unquote perfect lives, the Kardashians, that create drama in their lives
Right.
to disrupt and create something new. This is why people that are really happy and successful suddenly get ill, because they need that creation of
Cancel,
something that's
cancel,
down.
cancel. Dude, that's one of my fears. So don't even say.
Okay, we got to detune that. We got to
Listen, when
detune that. The
I
fear of
read some
having things too perfect. Yeah.
it was like Kelsey knows this, I think, some astrology report, and it was like you're gonna see more success than you've ever seen right before your death. And I'm like, what? Uh, And I was so suggestible to it. So I think I just took it in a little too deep, more deep than I wanted to. And I've had people talk to me about it. They're like, don't even worry. And I'm just like, I don't even know. It's still, I need to detune it. You're correct. I
Yeah.
definitely do.
Well, I think astrology is rooted in what the stream calls polarity, which creates
Yeah.
vibration flow. But obviously, you could have two people born on the same day. You have two twins that have very different life experiences based on their attitude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your attitude supersedes your vibrational flow. I've proven that in my life. I don't live like a typical Pisces, even though I channel, which is kind of a Piscean thing.
You totally are a Pisces.
But a lot of my
Whoa.
life was not that. A lot of my life was corporate and success,
Yeah,
success,
right.
success, and shutting all that down. So I was definitely not into the stream at that point and not into channeling and things like that. But I bucked the system. It didn't become a self-fulfilling prophecy for me. So that's what I always say. Any tool that is out there, there's nothing wrong with any tool that helps you. If it's hypnosis or it's astrology or whatever it is, they're all tools. And I do believe everything has the power that we give to it. So
Right.
if you
Oh,
give something
yes.
power, it's
Totally.
extremely effective for you. Religion even is very
Yeah.
powerful for people that give that power. So the power that we give to astrology, there's nothing wrong with it. I hate to hear people having this self-fulfilling prophecy because of that, or because Mercury's in retrograde. I used to have a woman that worked for me in San Francisco. She wouldn't come to work because Mercury was in retrograde. And she ultimately had to leave the job
Me and
because she
Kelsey are
missed
like,
so much work. Yeah, you create that. And I thought, well, Mercury's in retrograde for everyone, right?
it's so
Right.
funny because I've always thought like Friday the 13th, I've always had such good days on those days. I don't acknowledge at all that it's a bad luck day. Real quick, when you said Pisces, when you told me that you were seeing messages, you know, or like hearing messages as a kid in your experience as a child, and you knew things that maybe you shouldn't have known I was like, he sounds like Jack a little. Because my 4-year-old 5 now, over the weekend he turned 5, but he says stuff like that all the time, and he is a Pisces. And I immediately thought of him when you said that. So that's so funny. But anyway, yes, I don't know what you're talking about. I just had to put that in there because
We were talking about
Pisces, man.
I've learned
tools.
to embrace my Pisces,
Yeah.
Piscean ways, but there was a time that I didn't want any part of that. I wanted to be Mr. Corporate Success guy,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to care about people's feelings and be empathic and all
Source
that.
was like, yeah, let's see how that works out for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
We
you know,
have a
it made
plan.
me a lot of money, and I had a lot of material
Mhm.
things, but I was miserable at
Yeah.
41. I was miserable.
Yeah.
Absolutely miserable. That's why I created what we call Taya now, because I knew there was a different way to unwind, but I needed a system. So Taya is a system for applying universal law to your life. I needed a system because if I don't have a system for something, I'm not going to remember to do it. You know, people get into
Yeah.
a habit, they get inspired by something. I think that's why a lot of people utilize hypnosis, right? Because they want to make this their new habit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
people get into something new, and then the vibration drops inevitably, and they fall off the wagon, or the relationship goes sour, or you know, something negative is always going to come along that can throw us out of something because we're operating in vibrational flow. But
Yep.
vibrational flow at its best is there to create a better version of whatever we're creating.
I
Because
love that that's like when I went into hypnotherapy, I was like, everyone was doing like smoking cessation or, you know, stop biting your nails, stop snoring. And I'm like, I just want to empower people. I want to make them like remember how awesome they are. I want to teach them to love themselves. And I want to show them how connected they are to all that is, to all of creation. And because I feel like once you are in that boat, once you're in the boat of like, I am a part of something huge, I am a creator, I am freaking stardust, whatever, then you become just empowered by default, and it helps to create that default setting of like, I get to have anything that makes me happy, I get to have what I want, I get to have my desires, I'm supposed to, the universe is supporting me, you know, all that stuff. So I was never cut out for like, let's stop smoking, like it's just not my thing. Power to them, power to
well, the
all the
thing that you're
people.
creating a baseline for somebody, it's like Taya, you're creating a baseline
Yeah,
for somebody where you can from there change anything about your
right.
life that you want. The self-love and self-empowerment, if that comes first, then everything else is achievable.
Totally. Oh, did we catch all the points of Taya? Is there anything we left out?
I think just to sum up the four: forgiveness,
Yep.
source, polarity, and intention. So we talked a lot about the forgiveness part of it. Source is just different practices to allow your natural source connection to be realized. It can be meditation, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But things where you're just loving and appreciating yourself, which connects you directly to source. And again, developing the memory to do that by habit. Polarity is understanding your vibrational flow, where you are on your vibrational spiral, and being okay with wherever you are, but also having the tools to move out of it with grace and ease, not claw your way out of it, which doesn't work. And then intention, just being intentional with your life, with your day, understanding how powerful you really are. I just had a weekend trip. We went over to the coast for a few days, and I set intention for every part of it. The entire trip was exactly what I wanted it to be,
Whoa.
because
Nice.
I was intentional about the whole thing.
Yeah. I love those
Yeah.
stories.
Yeah. So that's what Taya is, or those four things as a way of life.
Did we say what Taya stands for?
Trust your abundance.
There we go. I know we said it, but I don't think we were recording yet. I was wanted to make sure we get that. TYA.
TYA, trust your abundance. And we've
abundance.
created a word out of it called Taya. But trust, I have found that trust is the most important thing.
And the
Trust,
hardest.
yes, because when it's easy to trust when you're up, but when you're
Yep.
down, it's
Yeah.
not so easy to trust.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
get there. You can get to where even when you're really down your spiral, even if you can't feel joy and you can't appreciate and you can't quiet your mind down there and meditate and have source just pop right in, you can still trust that it's part of the process and be okay with it. And that takes you right back up.
Ooh,
Love
getting all the
it.
chills.
I like
So
that you call it Taya, though. It has a pretty name to it, even though it's just 3 letters.
And it's almost like my VA's name, Tyla. Shout out to Tyla, Tyla.
Yeah, it's
Taya.
funny. I've never been like a branding type person. I actually have people that work for me that are pretty good at that. But the stream delivered the stream. First of all, I asked for a name, and there's Abraham and there's Joshua and there's
Yeah.
Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
There's all these male names out there, and I've never understood it to have a gender. I've never understood it to be human like at all. And when I was really young, I asked for a name of a spirit guide. I got the name Philip. And so I went for years saying, "Oh, well, Philip is my spirit guide." And then when I really got into channeling and really could have what you would call a conversation with the stream, I said, "Well, who's Philip?" They said, "Well, we just told you that name because it's what you needed at that time."
How funny.
Because you're humanized. We all humanize the energetic realm, which is
Totally.
to be expected because we're humans. But it was so funny. It's like, "Oh, there's no Philip. We just told you that." And it was really more or less, we're not human. We have not been human. We are
Yeah.
not male nor female. We don't have a name because we don't operate like that in this realm, but we're a stream of consciousness. And the stream just came in. And I started my podcast, The Stream of David. And the only funny thing with that, the irony of that, is I avoided Abraham for years because I thought it was some biblical Old Testament thing. A psychic told me that I was a channel and I needed to listen to Abraham. And I thought, well, that sounds like Bible stuff that I was taught as a kid. And then when I discovered Abraham, I loved Abraham, but it sounded biblical and it turned me off. And then I go and create the Stream of David, and now people think it sounds biblical.
I was actually going to ask in the beginning, like, what is the collective name of what you channel? Because all channelers I know, I even have a really good friend who channels a collective called Osira. Again, it's a non-gender name, but when you just said the stream, I was like, okay, it's the stream, got it. And that fits. It's so perfect because you're right. It is just a collective of beings and they've never been human, right? They've never incarnated on Earth.
Right. The stream
Yeah.
is source. The stream is source, and everybody has their version of it. And that's what I channel. And it's very stripped down, it's simplistic because the energetic realm is actually simplistic. And it's very direct and very honest. And I like that about them, but not everybody does. A lot of people aren't ready for that level of honesty that, you are creating every aspect of your reality and you always have been. So you have to sort of layer the teachings on a little bit when you're new to the stream. Allow yourself to just sort of immerse into everything they're sharing, and then it all starts to fit together like a puzzle. And then suddenly you understand the reason for life, all of humanity, why judgment occurs, why there is negative in the world and in the universe, and all of those things start to come into real clear picture.
Okay, well, I think we should dive in because I'm excited to ask some questions directly to the stream and have it all flow through. So whatever you got to do to get in the zone.
Hang on,
just
Kelsey.
edit this
So
part out.
Yeah. So let's just clarify, because is he going to do a channeling now for people listening in the regular episode and then again go back into
No,
channeling
we'll
in the
just
Patreon?
continue it. Right?
We'll just like cut it, just keep it going and just do the latter half in the Patreon.
Yeah. So you and I
Okay.
can just wrap up the show. He can just take a breather for a moment and then we'll just continue. Does that work for you, David?
Yeah, that could work.
Okay.
Okay.
Unless I'm really down my spiral, they dial up with relative ease.
Okay.
Because
Cool.
they're right here. They are right here in this conversation right now.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so it does take me just a moment just to breathe.
Mhm.
And I always invite everyone that's with me and everyone that's listening, regardless of when, to get into that meditative, clear state together. It's a magical experience, and you end up getting information from them, whether you are able to ask it directly or not when you get into that state
Nice.
with us, which is lovely.
What are we
Okay.
allowed to ask? Literally anything?
There's nothing that's off
Okay.
limits for them. They are
Oh,
not
snap.
necessarily politically correct. They just are what they are. The only thing is I have to understand the question,
Right.
and I have to
Okay.
be able to speak the answer. So I always say, if you want to get deep into how to perform surgery, I can't comprehend that question and can't comprehend the answer to it. So it's got to be within my realm of knowing what you're talking about. But they've never been stumped. So
Okay.
yeah, I always say that like a challenge, like someone's going to stump them for the first time.
Ah, that's funny. Okay. Hey there, thanks for watching this video. If you'd like to watch the extended version where you get the full podcast episode in a video format, just go to patreon.com/highvibe. The link is in the description. That's where you can become a supporter of the show, listen to all the episodes via video format, and each week you get extended versions of the show, meaning you get to see the pregame behind the scenes, and also you get an extended interview with whoever we're guesting, or if it's me and Lindsay, we usually pull cards for you guys, fun stuff like that. So go check it out. There's lots of cool goodies, including a free copy of my book, a free audio hypnosis from Lindsay. She's a hypnotherapist. And yeah, we just want to give you all the goods, all the content. So head over to patreon.com/highvibe to become a Patreon.
Or if you'd rather listen to the rest of this episode, head over to highvibinit.com where you'll see all the links to everywhere that it's getting streamed. Click your favorite one and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening.